What is up, guys? Jordan Marshall, Road Dog, ready to go. Episode 3 of the Road Dogging podcast. I have a freaking cool guest today. He came down from Indiana and chased us all over the yard in the Tennessee Bass Nation series and nearly won our Tennessee AOY series. Put a lot of miles on this year. Become really good friends with this guy this year, and excited to let you guys get to know him. Without further ado, I will bring in Mr. Marcas Grubbs. What's
What's up, man?
up?
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
Doing excellent. Good to see you.
You get caught up on sleep from the championship?
Almost there, dude. A couple more nights, I might have it. I'm tired, dude.
So tell everybody, kind of where you're from. Give us a little background if you want. Tell us how you got into kayak fishing, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I grew up in small town Indiana. Uh, did a little pond hopping with my dad when I was a kid, but never had a boat or anything. Uh, got into BMX, all that stuff when I was a kid, high school. Traveled around, did all that until I was maybe 28 or so, and I got back into fishing somehow, just off a whim. Maybe YouTube, a little bit of my dad, pond hopping again. Wanted to get out on the water a little bit further, and ended up buying a used kayak off of Craigslist for like $200. A 10 foot of sand. Quickly
10 foot of
realized I needed
sand.
something bigger than that. So I saved up and got a 12 foot of sand.
Oh yeah.
I rocked
Well,
that thing for years, man. It was awesome. It was a cool boat, and I didn't know anything better. So
so
rocked
how
that for
long
a
you think you've
while.
been kayak fishing? A few years now.
I'd say 2014 probably is when I started. 2014, 15, something like that.
And
Did my
how long
first
have you been
tournament.
fishing?
Yeah,
Oh, you were about to
yeah,
answer the question I
beat
was
you.
gonna ask.
Maybe the first tournament was 2016. I'm 100% on that. So,
Were those mostly for those that don't know, I didn't really particularly know who you were until this year coming down and fishing the Tennessee series. We had talked about you had fished some of the bluegrass
hmm
kayak angler series. Is that kind of Indiana and Kentucky what you kind of started fishing?
yeah, Southern Indiana. They got a bunch of clubs. Really, it's weird. For as good as the fishing is there, there's a lot going on with the tournaments. But my buddy Chad ran a uh, small division, I guess, and I got into it with him and started traveling around with him a little bit and hitting all the lakes we could for probably 3 or 4 years with him. And IKA Indiana Kayak Anglers did a few of theirs. I like doing those when I can.
I
But
think that. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, but man, I really wanted to fish Kentucky lakes. I never really traveled out there and hit like clear rocky stuff. I was always hitting dirty and grassy, which I like. I like fishing that a lot, but I wanted to kind of be a little more well rounded.
Yeah, I think the only event that I know of, I've heard of some of those groups up there in Indiana, but I think the only tournament that I ever hear about in Indiana over the course of a year is you have like a Crossroads Kayak Championship or something like that, where like a bunch of the clubs get together or something like that.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it's been going on for years, but I just heard about it this year. My buddy qualified for it, so pretty excited to follow that and see how it goes. Yeah, I think they're going to Illinois or somewhere like that.
Hmm. So I've never really fished in Indiana at all. You actually, it kind of caught me off guard. I didn't really, know what to expect. You said a lot of the water's kind of like dirtier and grassy in Indiana, kind of where you're from.
Southern Indiana kind of is, at least what I fished. There's a couple strip pits that's full of grass. Some of the smaller lakes are just chock full of grass and lily pads and stuff, and that's what I started fishing first. There's a couple of bigger lakes that do have a lot of rock and a little bit more clear water, but they kind of suck, man.
So, what made you come down and to try to fish the Tennessee series this year? I see your prized possessions behind you on the wall there with
Yeah,
your Happy Gilmore checks.
dude, those are the best, man. It makes you feel good. fitting those in the truck on the way home. But um, honestly, uh, there's a lot of tournaments around here. Maybe in Indiana, that's in a small lake that's 3 hours away. I can drive 3 hours and get to Chickamauga almost, or Dale Hollow or something like that. So I'd rather do that personally. And the level of competition is crazy. So it's almost like hitting a national event sometimes. You see some of the names on the list, you're like,
Oh
gosh.
yeah.
So, but it does
Yeah.
feel good when you keep up with them or you actually beat them. That makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you belong.
Yeah, we spent a good amount of the year chasing you. You started off strong. I think I've actually got the actual final tally for the point. There we go. Yeah, so I wish it showed the actual points events on here, but you started off strong. We spent most of the year actually chasing you in the Carl Black Nashville AOY race, and obviously, if y'all can see, Marcus qualified through the Dale Hollow event, which is literally the first event of the season. You opened up strong with second place at Dale Hollow,
Yeah. Yep.
and
And
pretty much from there, I think you had a pretty solid second event, and you pretty much
hmm
led the entire thing till some jackwagon came and took it from you.
yeah, man. Like, yeah, I wasn't expecting it, but man, it was so much pressure. Like I'd think about it first thing when I woke up. I'd be driving to work, not really. It hit me. I'd be like, God dang, I gotta hold on to this or try to or whatever. I honestly just wanted to be over. Win or lose, I hated that feeling. I would have much rather been in third or fourth trying to catch you or something.
Yeah,
But
I sent Marcus a text after day one of our state championship, and I like to give people a hard time. If they're ahead of me in events, I've done it to Ewing, and that's actually how me and Lambert became really good friends over the course of the last few years of us giving each other a hard time, and you know uh, Marcus, me and Marcus have, kind of become friends this year, and I hadn't really sent him one of those text messages. Maybe that Pickwick event, I told him I was gonna, give him a good shot to get AOY, but I think the Gunnersville event at the state championship was the first time I really started giving him a hard time during one of those events. It turns out Marcus is not 100% trash talker like me and Lambert. I don't know if he couldn't handle it or what. I don't know.
I'm a lover, man. I just want to be friends with everybody.
But I think the only person I didn't trash talk Saturday night was Ethan Jett, and he ended up beating all of us. So
Man, I didn't
I
realize
guess
you were only a quarter inch back, dude.
oh yeah,
That
and
was
I didn't
close.
realize that I probably I fish so many events, so I don't like pay attention to what all the in and out rules are. So I've got a pretty well set system of how I handle every fish for every trail, right? And
hmm
I could have gotten a little further back on the tail than what I did on those bass. And there's a picture of that like 15 and 3/4, which I shouldn't have had in my limit anyway. That's a whole nother story. But I think I could have got 16 out of him. But that's part of it.
Man, it is. I love pinching those tails, though,
Oh yeah, and
man.
shout out to Ethan Jett, state champ. That's an awesome feeling. That's something you
Yeah.
can't ever take away. There's only, Tennessee actually does have two of those a year. We're one of the few states that actually have a couple different state championships based on governing bodies. But we've got our Bass State Championship out of the way. Ethan's the champ, and
Man,
couldn't happen to a better dude.
I
Dugout
love that dude.
teammate. Oh
He's
yeah,
cool, man. He's
I
cool.
call him Mini Mullet.
Yeah, I can see that.
He might have
Following in your footsteps.
more volume than
He
me
has a
though.
lot
It's
of volume.
shorter, but it's a lot of
Yeah,
volume.
yeah.
So, you mentioned the BMX thing. We can go ahead and talk about that. Tell everybody kind
hmm
of what you got. You sent me a video. I'm going to let you kind of talk about it, and then I'm going to play an awesome video that I found online. Well, I say found. Marcus sent it to me. I had to retrack it down to get it on here. But tell everybody about that. This is actually really cool.
Yeah, man, like, I guess I just started. I lived in a small town, man. There wasn't much to do, but I had a bicycle and I just started riding it, jumping stuff, whatever, and ended up getting pretty good at it. By the time high school, was about over, I was traveling down to Louisville all the time, and hitting the skate park and making a bunch of friends. And then once I was out of high school, we started traveling. And I got with a clothing company down here. It's Shitluck Clothing actually, and they bought a airport shuttle bus and converted it to vegetable oil powered, and we drove that thing everywhere. I wasn't on this particular trip, but they drove it from New York to Texas on $10.
Oh my
And
gosh.
dude, it was fun, but man, it was a pain in the butt sometimes. We were mainly getting the oil from Mexican restaurants and Chinese restaurants because they had the cleanest oil, and we never asked for it. We just took it. So there's times there's times where I mean every now and then they'd ask, but I mean these were 30-year-old guys that were taking us around. And we thought they were adults. They were still pretty much kids too. And uh, man, cops would come sometimes. Sometimes they'd make us clean stuff up and get out of there. We never really got in trouble, but man, it was fun. I went on a trip from here to Oregon and back, and for a month long. It was hard to keep jobs, and I wasn't getting paid to do it. So it was
Yeah, I
kind of
bet.
it was pretty rough, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Got free bikes and all that, but yeah, road dogging at
You
night,
literally
man.
were
Yeah,
an OG road dog, and
yeah,
I didn't know that when we first started talking about coming on here, and you started talking about it, and I was like, man, that's even better. So you
yeah. I
even
wanted you to
travel
know
to
that.
different countries, right?
Yeah, first one I believe uh, went to Mexico City in 2009 or 2010. I can't remember for sure, but that was wild. It was 2 weeks, and that was first. I had to get my passport for that one. Um, Went to
How
Canada a
was
couple
Mexico
times.
City?
It was wild because it's so big, man. You'd travel for 2 or 3 hours and just be on the other side of the city. Um, you'd you'd see military dudes on the back of trucks with the turret type guns, be ready to go if they had to. There'd be guards with machine guns in front of really nice houses and stuff like that. I got food from some lady's kitchen that just lived by the skate park. Somebody took me in there and she made me a sandwich. Like stuff like that, man. It was wild. Uh, I don't know. It was cool. Um, yeah, you could easily walk down the wrong block and get in some trouble, but man, it was fun. There's a video of that you could find. If you search hard enough, you can find that video. I'll send it to you if you want.
I'm gonna
Uh,
play this hype video while you're talking,
Hype it up.
and here we go. So I can figure out how to play this.
um,
Why y'all had created this video to start with?
yeah, this one actually is from Austin, Texas. This is about right before I started fishing. So I was
Is
living
this
in Austin.
peak BMX Marcas Grubbs? It's your prime.
Yeah, my prime was probably a couple years before this. This is like right at the end of it. But no, I'd moved out to Portland, Oregon for a little while just to kind of chase that dream a little bit further, and realized it wasn't going to happen, and made a little money while I was out there, and decided to go down to Austin where I had some friends staying, and stayed there for almost a year, and just made this video with a couple my buddies down there. And when I came back from there is whenever my dad took me frog fishing at this pond that I'd been fishing. I got a picture of me holding a fish when I was 4 or 5 years old, and we caught a few fish on a frog, and that kind of lit that fire. And I started buying rods and reels, and I actually bought a belly boat and tried to go out on a pond and caught a few fish, and it was ridiculous. So that's when I ended up buying a kayak.
Will you explain what's going on in this clip right here? Were you just showing
Oh
off
yeah,
at that
dude.
point?
Yeah, there's this little slick editing there.
I get cracked up every time any of the basketball
Man,
portions of this video because I didn't know if this was just like a hype video or you mentioned the clothing company sponsor, if it was promotional for the clothing
it
company or
was.
what.
I rode for a bike company, and this was for them.
I got you.
Um,
I've fished just long enough to know how the sponsorship and that kind of stuff works, and I saw this, and I was like, my man just shot a dope sponsorship video for somebody or something.
yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Uh, but yeah, if you're from Indiana, you got to know how to play some basketball, kind of like y'all with football.
Oh yeah. So, were those you want to say any names of tricks that were in that, or any of those super fancy? They got a Grub Marcus Grubb 180
No,
kickflip fancy.
none of
I think
them.
that's skateboarding, but
Yeah, some of
what
that
was
was a
your
little bit.
signature Marcus Grubb trick that was your party trick at the skate park?
I could do those tabletops better than most people. I get them upside down and just pretty much lay the bike over. I don't know. I could do the front wheel tricks a lot. I always impress people, but it was pretty easy to do.
I think the one that I know that I would make a fool of myself more than any other is the one where you like hopped it up on that brick wall and you're moving one wheel is on one side of the wall and the other wheel is
Oh
on the
yeah,
other. And that I would break my neck. I barely, go down the road on a bike just without trying
yeah,
to jump and do crazy things. But I saw that and I
yeah,
was like, man, that's wild to me. I would break my neck doing that.
yeah. It comes with the consequences. I've knocked my teeth out. I've broken both wrists. I've chipped my kneecap and rolled ankles and done crazy stuff. Just I hit my knee one time and it just didn't move right for like almost a year. And it
Never
just
got it
started
checked
working again.
out.
I didn't have insurance. I mean, all that stuff was no insurance. I never had ever. Yeah, how am I going to afford having insurance? I just winged it. Same with
Yeah.
the 350,000 miles on the truck and driving to these tournaments. I'm just winging
I love it. I
it.
love winging it. That's true road dog fashion.
Yeah, man. If you want it, I mean, for the native deal, I worked an 11-hour day and then got off and took my son to my parents, got my stuff ready, drove straight down, fished all day, went to check in, and drove home.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
great. It was stupid. Like you talk, I don't know. That last hour of that drive, I don't know how I made it.
So, about how many miles are you kind of traveling for these events? I know you got some guys that you travel with. Tell us about your kind of travel arrangements for how you're kind of going back and forth from Indiana to, a lot of these
Yeah,
events are in East Tennessee and even either southern, kind of southeastern Tennessee.
yeah, dude. Luckily, I got a couple buddies. Tim Howard, you met him, and Rowdy Farinelli, and they live in Bee Spring, Kentucky, where Kayak shop is. That's the shop that sponsors me and Tim. And I drive there, park at his house. We put my boat and his boat on the trailer, and we put Rowdy's boat in the back of the truck, and we ride three wide in the front of that 98 F-150. It's pretty goofy, but man, it's been efficient, dude. Like
Yeah.
we can get a hotel and spend 120 bucks each, with gas included. You know,
Oh
it
yeah.
makes it affordable. It's an hour and a half to his house from my house, and then some of those trips are 3 or 4 hours from his house, so it's not that bad. All said and done.
Yeah, and y'all didn't miss a single Tennessee Bass Nation event this year, did you?
No, I was psyched that we actually did it, and if I would start doing real bad, we may have missed a couple, but I was kind of that's what happened last year. I had a good event on Dale Hollow, and then I had a decent Center Hill event, and then I don't remember what was next, but I bombed pretty hard. And it's like, well, I guess probably don't need to go down to Douglas and bomb again or whatever it
And
was.
I think Tim ended up being in the top 15 for points too, didn't he? I think he was.
Yeah, there for a minute, it was me and him were like first and second. Like we were
Oh
kicking
yeah,
butt
he
for a
was.
minute.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was sixth in points. That's
yeah, yeah. I
he.
mean, yeah, that's we're sharing a lot of spots too. We got to make one spot work for three dudes.
Oh
That sucks
yeah,
too. Kind of. it's good for practice. We can all kind of spread out and try and figure some stuff out.
Yeah,
But
there wasn't a whole lot of Marshall midday moves going on with the Indiana boys this
no,
year, was there?
no. But it was awesome too. I mean, if we were having a bad day, you might be like, dude, come over here, check this out.
Yeah,
You
that's the
know,
good thing about kayak fishing, man, is the community. Obviously, y'all were kind of um yeah, y'all are friends and we're riding in the same vehicle, so it's a little easier to do that, and you can kind of rely on
yeah,
each other. But man, that's
yeah,
people don't realize that's kind of how our whole kayak community is, of people
yeah.
wanting others to catch fish as much as they want themselves.
Dude, it has been like that. I've met some cool dudes on the water like that. It sucks. I had a couple people try and get on my spot, or coming toward me when I was trying to protect my stuff on Saturday, and I felt like such a jerk, man. Just being like, please don't come back here. I got something going on. And everybody was cool, but I felt like such a dork doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Especially if you're in specific areas where you're sharing it, and you're not going to move at any point. Like
Yeah, I had to.
Pickwick got really crowded. With the bass boat
Hmm.
tournament, and being the
Yeah,
last event of our series. There were quite a
yeah.
few guys making sure trying to qualify for state and all that,
Hmm.
and you kind of had a small area that you were trying to lock down for that, right?
Oh yeah, dude. We sat on it all day, and bass boats were mad. We had at least six of them trying to, and one actually got in between me and Tim. We had to have a little conversation with him. He didn't
throw
like
some
it. And they left.
throw some Hoosier welcome center program to those boys.
Yeah, just like I don't know what some of those dudes are thinking. They wouldn't want us doing that to them.
Oh yeah, they
Just
would be
sit right
beside
on top of
themselves if some kayaks rolled
you.
up on bass boats. What if it was the
Yeah,
other way around?
totally. And that's what that was all I said to him was like, "What do you think is like? What would you do? Why is this cool to you?"
Yeah, and a lot of guys,
But
even still, don't realize, what we're fishing for, and kind of chasing
hmm,
after, and even the money that's kind of involved in our events.
yeah, it might be more than what they're fishing for. Most likely it is.
Yeah, I don't know what the payouts were, but I doubt there was anybody that won, in that bass boat event on Gunnersville, this weekend. I doubt there was anybody fishing for more than $1,000 in that bass boat
Hmm.
event. I could be wrong. I didn't see what the payouts were, but Ethan won over $3,000, and I'd guarantee you there was nobody on that lake fishing for $3,000 except
All
for the
right.
kayak guys. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And they
Yeah.
would be the first ones to get bent out of shape if we were on a spot.
Oh, guaranteed. Man, how awesome is that lake, dude?
That's a special place, man. I've been going down
God,
there about 10 years, and it's a special fishery.
I wish I could go there every day, dude.
I might be going back Saturday. We've got well, I guess by the time this airs, it'll be past. But I was looking at going back down there. There's local events down there. There's quite a few local clubs down there. Man, every time I see one, I'm like, that just gives me an excuse if I could go down there and break even and come back, for just fishing
Yeah,
against 10 guys or something like that, just for
yeah,
fun.
dude, it'd be hard not to. How far is it from you?
It's about to Scottsboro where we had check in. That Goose Pond
Hmm.
area is 2 hours, 2.5 hours, give or take. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
a
it's not that bad.
yeah, it's a good little haul though.
Yeah,
But
depends
I,
on all that Chattanooga traffic.
right, yeah, I'd probably do it, dude.
I'm probably gonna watch the Vols beat up on the Gators this weekend.
Hmm.
Hopefully that ages well, and I didn't just jinx myself in the Vols. So, you know, we like to talk about, how many tournaments somebody fishes. How many tournaments you think you're gonna fish? Did you keep track this year? Do you know how many you fished or plan on
I'm
fishing
not
by the time the year's over?
I'm not 100%. I think I've only got one more for sure, maybe two more. There's a there's a charity thing I like to do in November up in Indiana. They have a turkey bowl that is a team deal, and I'm thinking about taking Tim and Rowdy up there to see if we can beat up on some of those dudes in one of their places.
Is that around Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So that should be pretty fun.
That does
And
sound
then
fun. You might have piqued my interest. I've got, my last event is we got TOC, the first, I think the second weekend of November, and the third weekend of November is the Georgia Bass Nation State Championship. But
oh yeah.
the last 2 weeks of November are open. I do like fishing team tournaments. I need to come scope out the Indiana scene.
You
I've never
should check
fished an
that
event
out,
up
dude.
there. What'd you call
Yeah, we
that? The
got a
Turkey Bowl?
Turkey Bowl. Check it out. It's Hoosier Kayak Bass, and I believe does it. But there's also the USA Bass and uh, Championship is on Kentucky Lake October or something. So that should be interesting. It's a
Yeah.
2 day event as well for a decent
Oh
amount
yeah.
of cheddar, dude. 5 grand
It's
and a gnar for the winner.
most of the north end of Kentucky Lake. I saw that.
Yeah. So
I wonder. I need to check and see what that is. I know I didn't qualify for that, but I'm just curious where that is. I know I actually had a couple guys hit me up and ask me about it, and most of the boundaries were all on the north end, like on the Kentucky side. I don't even know if any Tennessee
yeah,
is involved at all, which is
it,
basically where I've been.
yeah, yeah. I think maybe barely if there is any Tennessee. It's a high. It's one of the main highways. I can't remember which one, but
Yeah, probably 68 or one of those crossover. I think the bridge was the boundary.
yeah, I've only fished
Probably
there
around that Blood
once.
River area.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do there. I need to probably go fish it one of these weekends.
It's on the come up. I will say that there were a
Yeah,
lot of guys that did not want to go to Kentucky Lake for the BOS series this year and were expecting bad things. Now it certainly didn't have impressive numbers. If you look at it as a whole, there were quite a bit of small fish caught, but honestly, there were a lot of fish caught. There was a blue million 15-inch fish caught in that event. It seemed like so.
yeah.
Um, Kentucky Lake is definitely going to be fantastic in the next couple of years, and hopefully by if it's towards the end of October, hopefully you get some kind of fall conditions to where you can go throw some top water and cover water and
Oh
catch a
yeah.
bunch of 15s and catch a bunch of fish and have a good time.
I hope so, man.
Have you ever been to Kentucky Lake?
I went. Actually, that's the one that did it to me for the Tennessee Bass Nation the year I kind of stopped doing it. I guess. Man, that event sucked, dude. The water was super low. It was cold. I think it snowed the night before or something crazy. I
Oh
caught a
my
fit.
gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
I caught one fish and it flopped off the board before I got a picture. Yeah, it was a man.
I
I the GPS took me to the opposite side of the lake where there wasn't a ramp, and then to get to the ramp I wanted to was an extra 40 minutes. And man, it was a
Yeah,
terrible one.
I went down there and practiced for that, and let me tell you, when it was snowing in practice that Friday morning, or I guess it was Friday morning,
Yeah,
I absolutely, I mean, I could not catch fish. I had cut the hook off of a jig. Well, I went and practiced, and I was like, man, if there's fish on these laydowns, there's probably gonna be a fish on a bunch of them. And the first one I pulled up, I had like a 18, and I cut the
man.
hook off the little Strike King Bitsy bug jig I had, and I was kind of finesse flipping, and I got bites on the next 3 trees, and
Jeez.
no set the hook. They just swim off with it. And I was like, man, this is stacked full of big fish. And I went to the back where there was like a deep hole in this creek, and threw a Ned rig in there and caught like a 15. Cut the Ned rig hook, threw back in there, had like 6 more bites on consecutive cast in this hole. And I was like, they're in here. So I was like, I'm gonna go check this old bridge. Went over to the bridge, started throwing a crankbait, and caught like a 18 or 19 or something like that on like second or third cast. And I was like, I'm gonna win. I was like, I know what's in Kentucky Lake. I'm gonna win. I went and got off the water and went and had lunch and hung out, and went back the next day. And man, it was kind of a crazy day, but I caught a bunch of fish. They just never was any big fish. Apparently, I caught the only 2 big fish with my two hooks that were not cut off when the first jig flip and that crankbait, and it is what it is. I wouldn't change it. Man, there was never a tournament I thought I was going to win more than that specific tournament, because I knew how Kentucky Lake could fish, and I was like, they're set up perfect.
Did you win it?
No, no, not at
No,
all.
damn.
I wasn't even close. I didn't get paid or anything. I
Dang.
just I was as confident of that event as I was probably any event all of last year, and it just
Yeah.
it did not pan out. Had a good time though. Kentucky Lake's always fun. I've got a buddy of mine that has a group of it's called the Lake Lodge at Paris Landing out there, and I encourage anybody to check it out. It's in Paris. It's near the Big 79 Bridge at Paris Landing State Park. Great area. It's got big boat covering, pull through parking. You never have to unhook anything or back up anything, and lighted area, and it's a good deal. I love going out there. I'm Nobody wants to see Kentucky Lake, come back more than me. I've got a bunch of friends that live out there, and a bunch of restaurants that I like to go to and things like that. That's a home away from home, just as much as Gunnersville is for me. Kind of
Mm,
the way I see Kentucky Lake.
yeah, it'd be awesome if that place did fire off again.
It's a
I watched some of those old tournaments, and it's just nuts.
it's a special fishery when it's right. It's one of those places where you can go at any given point and just catch them anywhere. In May it seems like you can catch them shallow, flipping.
Yeah,
It's one of those places that's so big and so diverse. You can kind of do whatever you want at any given point of the year. To me,
yeah, that
it's
sounds
it's
awesome.
it's like Gunnersville. It's so
Hmm.
diverse.
Yeah, yeah. Big smallmouth, big largemouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So tell guys that don't know how you like to fish, and are you a power fisherman, you a finesse guy? What's your weapons of choice out on the tournament trail scene?
Man, I tend to do a little bit of everything, but it's just everything's usually pretty shallow. You know, I fished a little deeper this year than I ever had, and I'm talking like 10 or 15 feet. Like caught a few fish that deep. But normally 6 feet or less is where my range is. And chatterbaits a lot. Square bills, man. I love throwing a square bill or flat side or something like that. Wacky rig, man. Like if they're on a wacky rig or something like something drop shot or something, I love fishing that stuff too. Um, Lipless crankbait in the grass. That's one of my most confident baits I can have if they're eating it.
Are you
I feel
like
like I can
some
do a
some
lot of
guys
damage.
are some guys are real particular on their lipless crankbaits. Are you a hardcore specific brand lipless guy? Are you one of those guys that chases down those old school Excaliburs or
No, not at all. No, I'll throw Strike King, or I've been throwing those Yozuris last couple of years, and I think I
yeah?
like those about the best so far.
Those Yozuris are a big chick thing.
Yeah, that's kind of
They
where I'd heard about them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the only time I've ever really heard of Yozuri being brought up. I swear it's like a random chick thing. It's like
yeah.
people are like, "Oh yeah, I was throwing Yozuri topwater, or Yozuri rabbit trap," or I'm like, man, I missed the Yozuri bus. Apparently, at some point in time, I ain't got nothing against them. I just it's one of those things I kind of forget about.
Yeah, I'm
Eh,
curious about those lipless that Greg DePalma talks about. I can't remember the brand, but I don't
It's
know.
actually Nomad. I think it's Nomad fishing tackle.
Yeah, those look
Um,
pretty cool.
truth be told, I bought some as soon as he talked about it. I'm a tackle junkie, right?
Yeah, I
So
bet. Yeah, aren't we all?
um I I I bought some, threw them, didn't catch anything off of them. Probably stuck them back in a box. So the ones that weren't opened, I probably put in a box somewhere just for they probably were stored away somewhere, never to be seen again until I'm an old man and somebody pops those out of the box, and hopefully they're collectibles at that point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'll buy anything once just to see if it works. I've got
Yeah.
I've bought all the beaver the beaver baits, and beaver choppos and beaver wake baits and all that. I and
Yeah.
double whopper ploppers. I've tried a bunch of stuff and love throwing funky baits. It's a lot of fun to me. Stuff that can work, that nobody else is throwing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if I'm chasing anything like hardcore that's kind of collectible, I'm a big like balsa bait guy. I like collecting balsa baits because it's one of those things that's kind of started in East Tennessee, and
Oh yeah.
that's one of the first things I started cashing checks on when I was kayak fishing was you can break down water easier and things of that nature. I was one of the
Hmm.
first guys that were using a Hobie in East Tennessee, so I could cover water a lot easier cranking than most guys. So it felt like I
Oh
had
man,
an advantage doing that, and started loving those balsa baits.
yeah. There ain't nothing better than a freaking square bill bite, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
You can just, I don't know, but I lose too many to buy a $23 one,
Oh yeah.
but
It stacks up quick. You need you some plug knockers and little pieces of lead that
yeah,
you slide down
dude.
through there.
I finally bought one this year, and I've definitely saved a few lures, but
I've got a bunch at the house. I'm a big, like I said, I'm a big time cranker. I need to bring you some. We got some homemade ones that they sell over here at the tackle shop by the house, and I need to bring you some.
heck yeah, I'd like to try them out.
So so what all you fish the Bass Nation series is kind of your primary thing this year. Did you fish
Yeah,
any other series this year to as far as following around? I know you mentioned the Jackson event
yeah.
championship.
The kayaks and more had one of the USA Bass in divisions, so I fished all those, and then I dipped into a couple of them up in Indiana on Patoka Lake and Lake Monroe. Or actually, I didn't do a Lake Monroe. I just did two on Patoka. Sorry. Um, and man, I think there's only like four or five people in one of them, and 7 or 8 in the other, and maybe like 4 or 5 fish total caught, kind of stuff. So
That sounds terrible. That
yeah,
sounds
those,
rough.
yeah. I mean, I had 3 fish, and I I beat everybody because nobody else caught a fish. But I was really trying to actually catch a limit. I
You were
caught my first
mad during the
smallmouth.
tournament.
Yeah, I caught my first smallmouth out of that lake though, and hadn't hadn't done that before, so I was pretty psyched. They
How
were 12 inchers, but
12 inches. Did you get a PB smallmouth when you came down here to the Holston the French Broad?
it was my PB. It was the longest, but man, that sucker was skinny. So
Yeah,
I've caught a little heavier, but not that long. Man, I've really only caught them out of creeks and stuff. I hadn't
yeah.
I haven't gone anywhere and really targeted any trophies. Every time I go to a smallmouth fishery, I end up finding largemouth.
Was
I'm
that what
fishing
happened at Dale when
shallow.
you finished second there?
Oh yeah, I've maybe caught 2 smallmouth out of that lake.
That sounds about like my experience at Dale Hall. I wasn't
Yeah.
100% sure there were smallmouth in there. I think everybody was just lying that the world record came out of there just to get people to go. It's like a
Yeah.
big prank that we go up there for a giant smallmouth, and
Well,
all I ever catch up there is largemouth.
yeah, believe me, I'd love to catch 90 inches of smallmouth there, but it's a lot easier to catch a largemouth for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to start doing. I'm sure Steve will take us back there in the Bass Nation series this year to go back to Dale. I might just bite the
Yeah,
bullet
he
and
said,
purposely fish for largemouth.
I'm pretty sure he said it was the 16th, and I need to probably shut up about the largemouth.
Yeah, you better watch out. That's I always gain steam as the year goes on. I heat up with
Yeah,
the weather. You know what I mean?
and me
If
too, man.
I
I somehow just got lucky at Dale Hollow, but man, the Gunnersville, I tried to do that Bassmaster on Gunnersville, and I sucked it up, dude. I think I caught 5 fish total out of 2 days, but there's 2 other tournaments after that. It just sucked, man. Like tried to do Lake Cumberland. Man, I zeroed that sucker. I broke a rod over my graph that day. Mad as heck.
I've been there a time or two. I promise.
Yeah, man. I had a good old meltdown at Gunnersville. I feel bad because I was talking to a dude, Curtis. I didn't catch his last name. Nice guy. I was talking to him, and I lost a giant that second day. That would have helped out so much, of course. But
Are you talking about this
man,
weekend?
oh yeah, man. I had to let it out, man. I had all this pressure, so I just had to release it with a bunch of F words, loud as I could. And he was really cool, man. He just kept going. He's whatever. But I saw him later, and he's like, man, that was a complete meltdown. I was like, yeah, I didn't want to tell him that was just a baby
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that
like
was probably Curtis Perez. He's one of our kind of Knoxville area guys. He kind of helps out with a group called Clinch Mountain Kayak Anglers. Curtis is a good dude.
is he on a Hobie?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was a super nice guy. But I felt bad. But man, I had to let it out after something like that.
Yeah.
I went a
Bull
little,
Shad meltdown as they've been
yeah,
coined.
whew, little Iconelli moment. But
So what do you plan on fishing next year? Are you going to stick to the Tennessee Bass Nation schedule, or are you going to branch out? You need to talk them
yeah,
into getting like an Indiana Bass Nation event.
ugh, I had a buddy that tried to do an Indiana Bass Nation, and didn't work out. They couldn't get a hold of the right people, whatever it was. I don't know if he tried hard enough or what the deal was, but that fell through a couple of years back. But man, I can't tell you a schedule in Indiana that I'd be psyched on fishing. There's not any nobody could make one that I'd be psyched on fishing. I swear. I might do it, but I wouldn't be psyched on it.
Yeah.
But I've heard rumblings of a Kentucky Bass Nation. Um, that'd be cool, but I definitely want to try and do as many of the Tennessee ones as I can. If there's that Bassmaster Kayak Series, if there's anything kind of close that I could dip into, I might try one of them. But I don't think I'll be able to chase anything crazy far away with work and life and all that. I'm taking a week off of work and spending all that money out there. I can't. I don't know. It's hard to do with
Right.
zero help. You know,
Yeah.
I got a 7-year-old kid. I live by myself. Like pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah,
To
it's a
get
lot.
this
It's certainly
all.
not cheap to travel.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't know. There's a lot of moves I got to make before I can even go down and do a 1 day event. With 1 day of practice, let alone try and get 3 or 4 days off, and then work on Monday when I get back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's been quite a few times I've went, leave Friday night and drive somewhere, or, leave Thursday night and, be off on Friday, fish Saturday, Sunday, and then drive. I drove home from Arkansas one time after a Dardanelle Hobie event and drove like 10 or 11 hours straight, basically straight back to work. And, I feel like I slept like an hour at home or an hour in my truck at work or something.
uh,
I'd slept like an hour and just walked back into work and was just like, everybody's like, "Hey, how's your weekend?" I was like, "It feels like it's still happening, except for the fact that I'm here." I was like, "I didn't sleep last night. It still feels like it's Sunday."
oh man, yeah. One of the worst days I ever had at work was that Monday after that Bassmaster at Gunnersville this spring. I think
Yeah,
I ended up just laying down for my lunch break on the homeowner's grass. Just closed my eyes.
and you want to tell everybody what you do for work?
Yeah, I just do tree work. I get to climb them, cut them down, or trim them up, whatever needs to be done. But man, I love it. It's really awesome using chainsaws and climbing trees, dude.
He does a lot
Gotta,
of the even though we're a long distance apart, he does a lot of what I pick up. I see these tree companies, cutting trees down and stacking at the road, and I just come pick it up, nice and easy. My feet don't ever have to get more than a couple feet off the ground just to stand on my truck. So I don't know
dude. That's
how
a
Marcus does it, man. I don't like heights. I couldn't get up in a tree and cut nothing down. I'd be done.
dude. That's an awesome service that the city does for people. That's not cheap.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a that's pretty cool that they do that for real. Um,
Yeah, I love it. I've been doing it a while. I've been picking up brush and junk on the side of the road for like, 5 or 6 years now, and
that's
love it.
cool. Heck yeah. Road dog, junkyard dog.
Oh yeah, I've got all sorts of nicknames. There's a few things I'm not short on, and that's hair, bad jokes, and nicknames. I think is the top three going right now.
That's perfect.
So you 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 plan on fishing Tennessee Bass Nation this year or next
Yep.
year? I think according to Steve, we're going to do like 10 events. So, are you going to do all 10 as long as you're in the hunt? You going to get Rowdy and Tim to come down with you?
Man, I think Tim's pretty down. We'll see what Rowdy thinks. Um, I don't know how down he is for. He really didn't like that grass too much. I don't think Gunnersville spun him out a little bit.
I just
He
can't
ain't
wait to
used to
see
that,
where 10 events are. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we
dude.
got a
Right?
really good, coverage of the year with 7 events and having your
Yeah.
best 4 out of 7. I don't know. I assume they're going to bump that up to, probably, best 6 out of 10 or something like that.
Something
So
has to be. Yeah.
you're definitely going to have to, it was a tight AOY race this year with 4 events out of 7 because
Totally.
I feel like 9 times out of 10 you or Luke, oh my goodness, I can't think of Luke's name,
Graham.
last name. Yeah, Luke Graham. I cannot believe I forgot that. But 9 times out of 10, I feel like you or Luke, either one, probably wins a 4 out of 7 event with the finishes that were had.
Dude.
It's
Yeah.
it was so tight. It's you're
Yeah.
talking about splitting hairs. With a bad event being a 7th place or an 8th place at that point
Dude.
by the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at Pickwick, if Luke would have caught one more keeper, I think his finish may have put me in third for Angler of the Year, which would have
Yeah,
really sucked. Like that
yeah,
would have really sucked. Because I mean, the 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 tournaments I dropped, I think I dropped a 7th and a 10th and a 16th. So I didn't like drop a 30th or a 50th or anything. I dropped good ones. Like
right,
pretty decent finishes. Like so, I just didn't have a first. Or that would have been nice to win one and maybe drop a fifth. Instead of it's
yeah.
just the way it crumbled.
Yeah, it was a tight race. Like, I mean, the whole year. I mean, it seemed like, I mean, that one event that I won at Watts Bar, how tight the numbers were. I won it. You finished second, and you actually gained AOI points on me because you culled out a worse finish than I did. That's how tight the year
Yeah,
was. I win an event and then further back in AOI points than I started the event with.
man, it was wild. Yeah, like I don't know, it was wild. If you look at those finishes, like I think Chickamauga, you were right behind me, and then whatever you were right in front of me, and then
Yeah,
right behind you, and then Luke somewhere winning two freaking events that like
yeah.
so it was pretty awesome. There's hammers, man. I can't believe that I was even there. Like that's pretty special that
It
I got
was.
to even have my name up there for a few months.
Yeah, and I think, I think one of the funniest things I heard all year was when you got on stage at Pickwick and were like, "Man, I'm just happy to be down here." And I felt bad for Luke because I think Luke might have taken it as a jab, but
Oh, right after I
but
said it, I was like, oh.
yeah, it was it's
I'm glad I
to
got beat
show.
by you.
Yeah, he's like, tell him what you said on stage. I was back in the back and I couldn't help but start laughing back there, and I was trying to be quiet
Dude,
so I didn't want any mics to pick me up.
well, every time I get up there, my mind just goes blank. Like, he asked me about my day on Pickwick, and whatever I told him wasn't even close to what happened. I can't even remember what I said. It was some crap about not having a good bite in the morning, whatever it was. I got bit all day. I was catching fish all freaking day. But I just made up some stuff talking because I didn't know what to say. And then I just said something about I was happy at least I got beat by you and not somebody else. And that just like, who was that somebody else? Like what a jerk. Like, and he's a nice kid. It's not like I don't dislike anybody. Like, but I don't
That's
know
what
what I'm talking.
when I was texting Marcus and telling him, talking trash Saturday night. He's like, man, he said, I thought I made you mad or something. I was like, no, no, I'm just giving everybody a hard time. I'm trying to get in everybody's head. I'm out here, trying to trash talk like I'm Michael Jordan or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it ain't gonna affect my fishing, but it might make me sad, dude.
Marcas Grubbs, not a trash talker.
I
Quiet,
might. I
quiet.
mean, I like talking trash. I like trying to make people laugh. So if me and you are around each other, I'm gonna make fun of somebody else with you. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair. Yeah,
I'm not gonna
that's
make fun of
fair.
you. I want to make fun of that guy over there. Now, if you're not around and I'm with Tim, I might be making fun of you.
That's fine. I deserve it. I give
I'm just
everybody a
kidding.
hard time. I
I'm just
100%
playing.
deserve it.
I'm just playing. Uh, no, I just like I do like talking trash, but I didn't know for sure. I didn't know you well enough to know what to do.
Yeah. So, always ask a guest on here, at least I have in the last couple events. Is there anybody that you would want to room with, or even would recommend rooming with? I mean, obviously you got your boys Tim and Rowdy. I know
Yeah.
that's the guys you typically stay with. Obviously y'all have a lot of fun. Is there anybody that, if y'all got somewhere and had a house for a Tennessee event next year, is there somebody you're like, man, I think I'd vibe with that guy. That's a cool
Oh,
dude.
man, I really want to hang out with Dan Catrone.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I've hung out with him on the water and then at the check-ins and stuff, but it'd be awesome to stay with him one of these, dude. I'm so psyched to have met him this year, dude. He's one of the
He's wide
coolest dudes.
open, ain't he?
He's wide open, man. I met him at the check-in at Cherokee, I believe. It's either Cherokee or Douglas. They're the same freaking lake, basically.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah.
we just happened to sit beside each other, and man, hit it off. I could tell I got a lot of friends like him. He's
Yeah.
chopper dude. He's tattoo guy. I've got a lot of those dudes, and that we hit it off. You know, right from the jump, and then
He's got some cool tattoos too. I just know Dan a little bit, but you can tell, he's got a lot of them, and he likes to talk
yeah,
about them, and a lot of them.
yeah.
I feel like he's one of those people that has a lot of stories about what he puts on himself.
Oh, dude, yeah. He's a storyteller for sure. He's got some good ones.
He's wide open. There's no
Yeah,
shortage of personality with Dan for sure.
definitely one of the coolest people I've met fishing for sure, or otherwise.
So what you have any sponsors that you want to thank for your year this year? Any that you got anything working on trying to gain for next year? Maybe we'll try to get you
Man,
hooked up with somebody,
yeah,
get you a Head and Shoulder sponsorship or something. I'm trying to
dude,
work on that.
I need something, some Tresemme or something. But no, I got Kayaks and More in Beach Spring, Kentucky. They hooked me up. I was paddling last year. Dale Hollow was the last event I fished paddling a kayak. And I was paddling a Jackson Liska for 6 years, I believe, 5 or 6 years. When they very first came out, I bought one, and I've been on that until this year. And they hooked me up with a pedal drive for this year, and that changed the game, dude. Like
Oh yeah,
I'll paddle my butt off with anybody. I'll I'll blow these arms off getting to the spot. But it's a lot easier looking across the lake and knowing you can get there in a few minutes with your legs instead of a little bit of wind and stuff. You're like, man, I'm not paddling a mile to get over there. No matter
yeah.
what's over there, screw it. But there's several times where I just made that run this year and it paid off, and I wouldn't have done it paddling. So it's awesome, dude. Like I never thought about these 2 mile runs, at line or right at the beginning of the day, and it
Yeah.
happens, now, and I never would have done that paddling. Like, so that's helped out a ton, man. Being able to hold position, trying to fish, a little bit deeper, like
So you
that's
mentioned
just
a pedal driver. Are you still in a Jackson? What boat are you in
no.
right now?
I got an Old Town, uh, the top water 120. Next year, I'm getting a different boat, and I'm not sure which one yet, but it might be another Jackson. We'll see.
I got you.
But I'd like to try that
What do
NAR out.
you prefer out of have you got in any of the Jackson pedal drives yet? Have you tried any of those out?
Yeah, I've tried their new pedal system out. I forget what they call it, whatever their newest version is. In like a bite angler
Yeah.
last year or something. And man, the pedal drive is awesome. I love their system. I like the way that the the prop comes up. If you hit anything, you can lift a little hatch and clear it out if you need to, whatever. But um, that boat's just a little small, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily want to fish out of that boat. But that using that drive is 10 times better than their original one. And
Oh yeah.
I feel like just looking at that NAR, I think I can work with that. You know,
Yeah, the NAR's a
so
cool boat. There were, some guys that flip flop out of the Hobie to get into the NAR and check that out. I think it's definitely cool to see the evolution of how that drive's kind of progressed. And
yeah,
you mentioned the Jackson Bite. I had an OG Jackson Bite, not even the angler one that I bought just to have as kind of like a river beat up boat for a
yeah,
couple years.
yeah.
It was
It's
I think they called
pretty
the
good for
color the
that.
Rockfish. It was a great little boat just to throw in and out of steep banks and stuff like that that I could just kind
Yeah,
of beat up and take a couple rods with
pretty.
me and just fun fish.
Yeah, pretty lightweight. Just pack
Yeah,
it down. That's how the Liska is. That's the Jackson Liska is what I was on forever, and man, it's an awesome riverboat, dude. You can't get
yeah.
much better than that.
You run electronics on your Old Town this year?
Yeah, just a Garmin, uh, one of those 10-inch 106 whatevers.
Yeah,
I
106
really like.
SBs.
Yeah, I honestly have this year I caught more fish actually looking at that thing than before. It was
Yeah.
crazy if I looked down and saw a fish on there and turned around and caught it or something. That was like I'd be celebrating, I can go have a
Yeah.
beer for that one. But this year it actually I can see a lot more now that I got this Garmin too. I had an old Marantz before that was 10 or 12 years old, and kind of squinting to see what was on there. And that I actually took the winnings from Dale Hollow and bought this one. And those $2,000 units were on sale, I think, for $1,000, and I picked one up. And I don't have live scope or anything, but maybe
Yeah,
one
it's
day I'm
probably the
not.
same system that I'm running, just with the live scope attachment. Honestly, it sounds
Yeah,
like that's very similar.
yeah, they're awesome, man. You see a lot with that thing. That the side imaging so good, the down
Oh
and
yeah,
man,
it's a
it's
nice unit. It's
yeah,
when I was looking into it, trying to decide what I was going to do, that's kind of what I felt was best, and I went and I didn't have a hookup. I didn't want to try to be kind of pointed in a direction that I didn't want to go in. So I just kind of went and, bought it. I didn't buy it through anything particular. I went and bought it at Black Friday like everybody else
yeah, yeah,
from Bass Pro at the time. I just went and bought it because that's what I felt like I wanted to do, and I just wanted to kind of, take a crack at it, without having the blinders on, so to speak. And I think
yeah.
it's been a great unit.
It is, man. I'm definitely gonna eventually get live scope for it, but we'll see when. I'm thinking about, I'll probably try and get a some sort of motor, you know, Newport,
I
throw it on
I
the
think
back, and
if I had to choose between the two, if I was only choosing one or the other, I think if you're fishing a lot of Bass Nation events, which it sounds like you are. I don't know how the local Indiana scene is, as far as motors or no motors, or if you're planning on fishing Hobie events, but anymore, there's so many events that allow motors. I
yeah,
think a motor is just about the most valuable thing you can put on a kayak at this
dude,
point for the average
yeah.
angler.
Well, my buddy Tim's got one, and man, just watching what he does, I'm jealous.
Oh
When he wants
yeah.
to go somewhere, he just freaking goes, man. Leaves me in the dust.
Yeah.
It sucks, dude. I'm working my butt off. I got passed by a Hobie earlier this year after like 5 minutes of 5 miles an hour as fast as I could, dude. I'm trying to get to this road bed. I know there's a shad spawn going on, dude. And I'm cranking. I'm sweating, dude. I'm breathing hard. And I hear something. And I look over and it's some dude in a Hobie with a freaking torpedo or something just cruising past me, not even moving. And he
They
goes
sell
straight.
themselves, man. They really
Dude,
do.
he went straight to the roadbed too. As soon as he passed me, I just stopped pedaling. I was like, Jesus. And he fished
You
that
got
roadbed.
beat. You knew
And
it.
I got my butt beat, dude. I didn't see him coming until he was already past me,
I I know how that is. I was that guy at one point in time too. I learned my
dude.
lesson and bought a motor.
That's next year for sure.
Yeah. Well, if you have anybody else you'd like to thank, we're approaching an hour here. I think I've asked you about everything I was planning to ask you.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
I'll probably end up seeing you. I'm going to seriously consider going to Indiana and fishing that Turkey Bowl thing. That
Dude,
what is that, a 3-man team event?
it's a three-man team. You could just show up with Ewing and maybe some other hammer, one of your good buddies that probably wins everything too, and just surprise everybody.
That would, that's as fun as that sounds. It's, I got a buddy of mine that was in the first episode, Eric Thompson. We've won about every team event around here. We've won like it was like a state team event, like a fundraiser. We've had some local team events that we've had. I feel like he would definitely 100%, if the weather was reasonable, I could get him to come with me and we could have a lot of fun with that.
Dude.
Ewing would be just a bonus. The three of us actually talked about fishing the crappie tournament trail that they had talked about. I don't know if you had seen that or not,
That
but
I did see that Bobby's doing it, I believe.
yeah, Bobby Tinker,
Dude,
another
that would be
awesome
so
awesome
cool to
dude.
do, man. I met him too this year. He's cool as shit. He's cool as anybody. Cool as a fan.
Yeah,
Another
Bobby.
tattoo
Bobby.
guy.
Oh yeah, Bobby's a good dude. Wild, straightforward as can be. uh Bobby will tell you like it is, and he don't care a bit. And then if you get your feelings hurt, he'll just kind of look at you and start chuckling and laughing. His laugh, that's hysterical.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Like just meeting all you guys and everybody's so cool. It's a cool scene. That's another thing that keeps me coming back, man. Steve and Daniel just do an awesome job. It's cool to represent for them too.
Oh yeah,
It's
Steve's one of my favorite people. I would not be anywhere close in this whole kayak fishing thing if it wasn't for Steve. A lot of people don't realize that I really wasn't fishing. I'd fished like one or two kayak tournaments and was just fun fishing out of my kayak until Steve had bought some jigs for me back in the day, and we just hit it off. We were both Yankees fans, and he's like, "Man, I didn't know you kayak fish." I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of my thing." And he's like, "I run kayak tournaments in Chattanooga. You need to come down here." And man, we've been friends ever since.
oh yeah, heck yeah, dude, that's awesome.
So
Yeah,
they were incredible running the whole series
n-
this year,
yeah.
and put up with a lot of stuff.
I mean, it's run so well, and they're so laid back about it. Like, I mean, I've been in some tournaments run by some people that just like everything's crazy. Like, it's not. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, what that one tournament you could launch whenever. I forget what tournament that was. There was no launch time. You could launch whenever. You just had lines in with just 5:30 or whatever. That was crazy. You can sleep on a sandbar if you want.
Yeah, there was a lot of tournaments that used to be like that. It was like, we can't police it either way. Whatever y'all want to do is whatever y'all want to do. We're just not accepting fish pictures before this time.
Yeah,
And
screw it. Why
I
not?
love the practicality aspect of that.
Yeah, yeah. There's been so many times where somebody's asked a question or something, and Steve will just have such an easy answer, and I'm like, well, that makes sense.
It's a lot of experience and doing it
That's
for a
what it is,
while. He
man.
he knows
Yeah.
what's worth getting bent out of shape for and what's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a good dude. Daniel's right there behind him. They're both cool, man. Both funny dudes.
Yes, sir. Well, anybody else you'd like to thank before we roll up out of here?
Man, I definitely got to thank you for having me on here, dude. Tim and Rowdy for hanging with me and putting up with my crap because I'll get a little crazy sometimes, dude. You can imagine. And then kayak some more, of course. My parents, man, they helped me out so much watching my kid. Um, you can imagine. I mean, 7 tournaments in Tennessee. They're watching him after school on Friday till I get back. A lot of times Sunday. So
Yeah,
pretty sweet of him. I get him every weekend, so I gotta figure out something just to go fishing. I'm lucky if I get to fish 2 or 3 times a month.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I got you. There's a lot of us that wouldn't be in a lot of places that our parents. My mom and dad
yeah,
helped me
dude.
put this whole thing up with just me and my dad. Mostly my dad. I ain't even gonna say me and my dad. It's mostly my dad, and I help a little bit here and there, but put up a big lean to over here to put the
Mhm.
kayak under. So that's
Oh, that's awesome.
it's special. A lot of us wouldn't. Well, none of us would be here without our parents. But
That's right.
it's
Yeah,
a lot of us are grateful that to have their help even now.
yeah, for sure.
So Marcus, thank you so much for coming on here, being the third guest on the Road Dog podcast. You are officially stamped Road Dog
Dude.
approved. uh I will surely see you out there in December. I'm sure, as much as I hate Dale Hall and get my butt kicked up there, I'll be down there. So I'm sure I'll see you at Dale Hall to kick off the Tennessee Bass Nation Series this December. And maybe if I can scrounge some guys together, we can come up and give you boys a hard time in Indiana, make you at least sweat it out anyway, like you've done
That would
me
be
on here.
awesome, dude. That would be awesome.
All righty, man. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you, man.
All righty. Shout out to Marcus. Awesome dude. Good friend of mine that I've made this year fishing the Tennessee Bass Nation Series. Good dude. Travels a lot. He's got some awesome stories. Uh, even the BMX stuff. That still blows my mind. All the places that he's been. That's cool as crap to me. Um, Obviously, got quite a few more events coming up this year myself. Probably going to take the weekend off this week and get ready for Sam Rayburn in Texas for the BOS series, and try to knock out a few more big events. We got TOC coming up, Georgia State Championship. Got one more Tennessee Kayak Angler Society of Tennessee State Championship at Tim's Ford. So it is trophy season for those that have qualified for the championships at the end. That's the cool thing about kayak events. A lot of that stuff's in the fall when a lot of guys are hunting and stuff like that. So it gives us a really good opportunity to put some big fish on the board at the end of the year in the fall when fish aren't as pressured and they're fun to catch them on top water and everything else. So one of my favorite times of the year to fish, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always, try to do better next time. And I will try to find us another cool and fun guest. So appreciate you guys listening. Road Dog out.